Welcome to another episode of the CPGGUYS podcast. Our co-hosts, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Shri and Peter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CPGGUYS podcast. I'm PVSB, one of the aforementioned CPGGUYS. I'm also the VP of Partner Strategy and Development at Fetch Rewards mobile loyalty platform. Today, we're coming to you from sunny Las Vegas, site of the 2021 Grocery Shop Conference. And if you can't tell from my hoarse voice after talking for several days, well, I'm usually joined on this educational journey about how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world by my good friend and a thought leader in the consumer packaged goods industry, Shri Rajagopalan, but it's his birthday week. And given he's celebrating the big 5-0, yes, Shri, you're now playing what I lovingly refer to as the back nine of our time on this globe revolving around the sun. But understandably, Shri is enjoying the event with his family at home in Los Angeles, which is also the home of the reigning World Series champion and 2021 playoff-bound Los Angeles Dodgers. Had to slip that in. Anyhow, before we get to our guest, I will remind our audience that all of our content, over 130 episodes, it's available on 40-plus podcasting platforms, virtual assistants, and so much more. Content can be found by simply visiting CPGGUYS. And the best part, it's all free. If you aren't already following us on LinkedIn, just enter CPGGUYS in the search box. And when you get to our page, simply click follow. That way you'll get to see all of our content we are producing. And as I said, the best thing about it is no cost. Anyhow, also, we recently announced a partnership that we're forming with the Network of Executive Women. Born from the CPG retail industry, NEW represents 13,500 plus members in 22 regions, representing 900 organizations across North America and 300 plus national and regional corporate sponsors. And it's a strong collective voice for everyone in the corporate world who wants to see gender equality become a reality. More about this partnership coming soon. Now, on to our main event. Anyone who has listened to this podcast, to even a small degree, knows that we have explored the dramatic changes in omnichannel shopping behavior over the last year and a half. Trying to measure the changes occurring so that brands and retailers can make highly informed business decisions is at the very top of priorities for marketers and sales professionals in CPG retail. The CPGGUYS have partnered with NielsenIQ to explore how omnichannel measurement and insights are responding to the evolving shopping behaviors. In the first episode of our series earlier this year, we spoke with Liz Buchanan and Natalie Williams. We're pleased to continue the conversation with NielsenIQ and to explore some remarkable, at least certainly by my evaluation, new capabilities in omnichannel that they have recently announced. Please join me in welcoming back to the podcast Liz Buchanan, Managing Director of Customer Success, and making his very first of what I hope will be many appearances with us, Harvey Moss, Senior Vice President, Omni Consumer and Retail Performance North America. Wow, it's a long title, Harvey. Liz, Harvey, welcome to the CPGGUYS podcast.
We're great, Peter. How are you?
I am doing so great.
Doing amazing, Peter.
Hey, can you, before we get started, first of all, I'll put in the liner notes of this podcast a link to NielsenIQ and particularly the solution that you guys are going to be talking about today. But why don't you, first of all, just give us a brief overview for our audience of exactly what NielsenIQ does.
Do you want me to take it?
Do it.
Okay. So most people will know the Nielsen brand as a 90-year-old brand. More in maybe the media space as a public-facing brand, the Nielsen ratings. Earlier this year, we split actually apart from the broader Nielsen organization to form a newly independent company, NielsenIQ, focused exclusively on measuring consumer and retail. And we're going to talk a lot today about exactly what we're doing in that space. But NielsenIQ is completely focused on that in over 100 countries.
Terrific. That's really helpful, Liz. So I'm going to open up the podcast interview for Harvey, because Harvey, you're really new to NielsenIQ. In fact, you recently joined them from Target.
Right.
I'm very intrigued to understand from you, what was it about this role that said, hey, I'm willing to come over to the service provider side and lead this initiative?
Well, first, thank you, Peter, and thanks for having us on the podcast. You know, the background of retail has been fascinating. It's been moving at a lightning pace. You think about, my background, I was blessed to be in negotiations at Target, and then merchandising, and then marketing, and then building Roundel from a retail media standpoint. And that entire ecosystem was so full of opportunity, and also lots of white space that, Nielsen can really solve. We talk about Omni, which is really my core responsibility here in building Omni. You look at just what exists out there in the marketplace today, and there's nothing quite like understanding the evolving behavior that data hasn't evolved with in terms of the times. So you think about how supply chain has moved, right, post-COVID. Things change really, really quickly. Data and measuring and analyzing that hasn't moved as quickly. And so that's really what we're here to build, is to provide our clients, manufacturer retailers, with the most comprehensive view of the market, grounded in truth. And that opportunity is incredible. So that's why I'm here.
Brilliant. That's helpful. So you mentioned talk about change and how rapid it is. I think we both know, and I don't need to tell you guys, that omnichannel commerce has undergone radical transformation in the last 18 months. What emerging trends have your attention right now in this space?
Yeah, great question, Peter. So, here at Grocery Shop, I presented here at NGA. Why don't I share with you the trends that I presented and the ones that we had the most reaction, whether it be positive or negative.
I love that, because we're sharing, for people who weren't at the conference, some of the insights you provided. So
Great.
You're expanding to a broader audience. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. The first thing, the least surprising thing, is that the Omni shopper is here and it continues to rise. And the separation of just being able to see online and offline sales doesn't cut it anymore. And I think people are starting to realize, and companies are starting to realize, that just understanding those two things and not being able to measure everything in between has been incredibly difficult. You pair that with things like Americans are really sensitive about financial security, and you talk about just the economy changing with forced behavior. We talked about consumers that previously shopped at stores, and 20% of those stores were gone. I mean, all these things kind of blend into a view that people are trying to decipher, which is what is actually happening in the marketplace right now. And getting that accurate, precise truth is so difficult to find. Some of the trends we saw that were really interesting. The slide that I think garnered the most attention was our impulse slide. So the definition of impulse. And I shared, working for a retailer, this constant evolution of building the checklane of the future. And then I shared that, frozen foods is one example. 22% of Omni shoppers actually consider frozen foods an impulse buy. And I asked a question. I said, what does that look like for the future of checklane? Does it mean high velocity items won't perform well in an omnichannel world? It was purely a question. And I just want to be clear that they will still perform. The question is really, does the definition of impulse change now in an omni-channel environment? Because what shoppers are telling us now is, look, frozen foods, when I was a buyer, that was never even in the consideration set. We talked about impulse. But they're dictating and telling us that this is the behavior they're looking at. And it's really our obligation to use data to figure out things like that as a means to deliver a better customer experience. So that was the biggest trend that we saw, and that got a lot of attention at both shows. The second is this consideration between price and quality, because despite this financial situation that we're in, Americans are saying, I really want to start saving more money because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Omni shoppers are saying, I really want quality and premium over low price. And so again, another example of the Omni shopper bending what we would consider prior truths potentially. Yeah. And those trends have been quite debatable here over the past couple of days, but it's been a really fun conversation.
I think about that concept of impulse all the time, and I start thinking about how do you get them to want to buy that as their in the physical store, they're walking through the aisle and you do have that checkout. And that is, I remember in my early days working with Coca-Cola, when I would do a store walk with a route driver, they would first go to the checkout and fill the cooler, then go do displays, then do the shelf, and go back to the cooler one time, because if they could fill one more bottle that had sold, that's where the margin was. Yeah. And so what do? I start thinking about your old company and Target, and I'm thinking, well, now that, what do they do with pickup? Well, maybe it just changes what the experience is when they're sitting there waiting for the product to be brought. Right, and absolutely. How do you capture that impulse opportunity? So I agree with you. There's a lot that can be done. So you mentioned we're a grocery shop here in 2021, and I'm sure you're talking to a lot of people. So what, from your perspective, are you hearing at the show that the attendees are really talking about that's got their curiosity piqued?
Oh, Peter, we joked, we saw each other last night. There's a little thing called e-com that's kind of a big deal right now. Shocker. You know, a lot of the comments about e-com. Fulfillment is still top of mind. We talk about social influence being top of mind, but you know, it all really boils down to e-com. And I think that's the one thing I want to go back and just touch on really quickly is we talked about the definition of omni. And I've heard that word being used in so many different contexts. You know, with omni, what we really believe at NielsenIQ is that omni is literally just the measure of the entire commerce marketplace. That's really all it is. And it's the umbrella that encompasses all consumer behavior. I mean, and those two things, as the intersection, it's all e-com. So when I hear things like my shopper marketing, my retail media, my direct mail, at NG, they're talking about, you know, circular. And I'm like, you look at circular as a traditional kind of print medium, but all of these things are actually interconnected in the omni e-commerce space. And you can't just look at those things agnostically anymore. So what I find really interesting is that there's all of these discussions happening about, you know, what do I put my digital marketing into in the future? How do I impact my trade budgets? What do I do to kind of capture more ROAS? And the whole world now with e-com is interconnected. In fact, that e-com term is really just, it's how consumers shop now. Anytime, anywhere, with whatever device they want to use, and it's all interconnected. And if the circular gets them there, I mean, that is actually an influence into the e-com ecosystem. And I think that's what we're trying to prove through data.
Yeah.
And it's been very hard to do.
Historically.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say historically it's been hard to do, but I think we're making some big steps in that space, which is why it's so exciting.
Yeah, I agree. And I think about the circular, you know, those are going digital too, right?
That's right.
And they become shoppable themselves.
That's right.
And I think about all the content that sits behind them suddenly. So that kind of leads to my next question, which is the measurement aspect, because it's great to do things, but if you really want people to invest against it, they need to know that it moves the needle. So from your perspective, in your opinion, what are the key measurement deficiencies in Omnichannel, and what have been the friction points to date in doing really meaningful measurement?
You want me to take it?
Yeah, you're the OG in the space.
OG?
She's the OG in the space.
You're the Vicky Gunvalson of Omnichannel.
I don't even know who that is.
Okay, sorry. Real Housewives of Orange County.
Got it. Not where I expected you to go, actually.
It is my guilty pleasure. I will totally own it.
I'm so happy to know that.
I didn't know who it was either. I just don't want to admit it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So the measurement space has traditionally been challenging, right? And we've talked about this, I think, even on the prior episode. Mm-hmm. The industry sort of thought about e-commerce and brick and mortar as a comma and not an and, right? So you looked at brick and mortar measurement, you looked at e-commerce measurement. E-commerce was traditionally challenging to even get the data for. Most of the retailers out there are not cooperating in the same way that they do with brick and mortar sales. And so creating that measurement was something that took a lot of R&D. But now putting it together is one of the biggest challenges the industry faces. And in doing so, everybody's been kind of cobbling together their own views. There's a lot of, and this is like getting into the sausage making, but there's a lot of duplication across the two halves of that equation that has to actually be deduplicated in order to get a comprehensive view. So do the brick and mortar sales include click and collect, trips? And how do you tease those out to really understand click and collect as an independent fulfillment approach, right? And so that's what we've been working really hard at, is bringing that together into an and really doing that deduplication, being able to understand those drivers. And I think that's what the next big unlock is going to be.
Yeah, to me, it's things like that. It's things like, how do I tease out data from marketplaces?
Yes.
That it actually gets merged in with the store data. How do you get that? That's a big unlock. So from your perspective then, to build a better measurement system, what capabilities need to be true to actually have that measurement tool answer the reality of what is going on?
Yeah. So I'll start, and then maybe if you want to build, Harvey. But I think the first thing is that it truly does have to be comprehensive. To the point that Harvey made earlier about Omni is the new umbrella term for measuring commerce. We are going after the growth areas and looking to cover the growth areas. And so when we think about coverage, our commitment is to provide the broadest coverage, inclusive now of that total Omni landscape. But there's a depth of that data and a reliability of that data that's required in order for anyone to actually do anything with it and make it actionable, right? And so where we have kind of currency quality, point of sale information, of course we utilize that. And where we don't, we find the best surrogate possible. And so we've got some really exciting things that we're building that actually replicate or are just as good as the point of sale data, but are really based on kind of new novel approaches to measurement. So there's this R&D, as I mentioned before, that's going on around how do we build a better mousetrap to really get this comprehensive view, and then also the depth and granularity that's needed to be able to actually action it.
Brilliant.
And then you look at just the sheer amount of disparate data sources that are available today. And for us, we navigate through that entire landscape. And it's probably why NielsenIQ was excited about my background here, because quite simply, there are new ways to get at the data that have probably existed outside of the traditional NielsenIQ business in the past. And I think now what's really exciting is stitching together all of those things. I mean, with retail media, we were at the point where we can measure at the consumer level, like item level detail and conversion at the consumer level. And we think about extrapolating that out, the total Omni measurement ecosystem as a future consideration. I mean, the power of this is amazing. But our job is to figure out how to make it easy and really taking all those disparate data sources and make it easy for retailers and manufacturers to get a really great view. And that's the vision, that's the goal, because again, we always joke like Omni sales, we demystify, and everyone's been asking me about the methodologies and the technology. And literally I said, I'm going to give you the secret sauce. I mean, really, it's just taking one piece of data that we have, which is the EPOS data from retailers, is taking our ePanel, our consumer source data, and all we're doing is stripping out all the double counted stuff. I mean, that's really in a nutshell what it is.
Yes.
And I think when you demystify it that way, retailers and marketers start to understand what it really means.
Right.
Because when we go through the PR and the pitch, they get a little intimidated on, I don't know how to use this, I'm not sure what it means for me. And really all we're trying to say is, don't you want to know that the things that you're actually measuring are real, precise, not double counted? Yep. And that's really like the Cliff's Notes version of what Omni sales is really all about. And we're hoping to do that across a lot of different products, because again, the easier we can make it, the smarter our retailers and partners become. And that ultimately leads to great consumer experiences, which is what we're all in this for.
So you mentioned Omni sales. As we record this, second day of grocery shop, you made a big announcement about Omni sales.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what this is about and why this is a game changer in terms of measuring omnichannel?
I'm letting you two take this one because they let me be the face of it. Liz, you and the team that you built it before I got here. So I've been taking the credit for it. Don't get me wrong, this has been amazing. But really it's cool. I want Liz to be able to take the credit for what they built.
I don't know if you know this, but I have a face for podcasting.
So
you said not me, Peter.
that umbrella view we talk about, right? The comprehensive measurement and the deduplication of that, bringing it all together. So we've had, brick and mortar measurement for years, best in class. We've had a fantastic product around e-commerce measurement, and we're bringing that together to form our Omni sales solution. We do all of that deduplication for you, and we've put it into our Connect platform. So it's really that comprehensive end-to-end view. Our goal is that this does become the system of record measurement for our customers.
So what I hear you telling our audience is you, between OmniShopper Now, Omni Sales, you have a fully operational platform for measuring omni-commerce.
That's right. Measuring and then diagnosing, being able to actually understand what is happening with the shopper. I think that piece of it is so important. There are other players in the market that maybe have one piece or they have a version of one piece of that, but nobody has both. Nobody truly has the truth set measurement data and a longitudinal, same shopper, over time, comprehensive omni shopper panel understanding, and that those solutions talk to one another, and that you can actually drill down and see, this is what's going on with my performance. Now let me understand the shopper consumer lens to that. That really is new.
But and hey, I'm gonna put on my salesperson hat here, like infomercial time. Like, let's prove it to you.
That's right.
I mean, we're so confident in it. Like, my team is standing by ready. We'll do free demo. We literally want you to use it. I was just sharing with a client yesterday who was a little apprehensive because she said, if this is really everything you say it's going to do, this solves a lot of the problems we've been having in the past. I said, look, use it, take it, and the best thing you can do is break it, because then I can make it better. But that's honestly, like, for all of you listening right now, call us. We've got a whole team, a big team standing by ready. We want to get the tool in your hands and use it. We think the competitive product is good. Like, there's a lot of things out there, but what it might do is expose what we call the blind spots that maybe exist right now. That, hey, if we can help you fix those blind spots, again, like, our passion is to get that consumer experience to a point where those blind spots no longer exist. That's what we're here to do.
But wait,
there's more.
You get an entire set of Ginsu steak knives.
Who's buying those? I didn't buy them.
I know. But you're not only you built a fully functional platform, but you're also thinking future state. You followed up the announcement on Omni Sales with yet another announcement a couple days later. You're making some investments in the future state by bringing into the NielsenIQ family both data impact and Rakuten intelligence.
Yep.
Wow. Can you help us understand how those pieces finish the puzzle, or at least make the puzzle stronger than what it already was?
Well, first, Rakuten and Data Impact family, we are so excited to have you, because this is like a match made in heaven. Peter, I talked about earlier, just there are so many data sources out there available that we need to stitch together. And currently, the stuff we have is really good. Data Impact and Rakuten make it really great. So to be clear, on the Rakuten side, a lot of the ePanel is actually powered by Rakuten today. So for us on that piece, it's the ability to invest, to be agile, to now have the data sets owned by one source of truth. Rakuten also gives us a lot of other breaks, which we're excited about. I mean, non-endemic categories, Peter, which we have not traditionally provided at NielsenIQ in the past. Financial services, which we have an arm, but it's a very different piece of that business. Those are all things from a data standpoint that we are now getting as part of Rakuten. And I think evolving that at a rate that we couldn't do before with two standalone companies.
Yep.
While they've been fantastic partners, having it all under one family will be fantastic. And the data impact side was what we're most excited about is it brings in this entirely new source of publicly available consumer source scraped data in a frequency and at an agility level and at a granularity that we've never had before in the past. I mean, we're talking about store level by day by UPC. I mean, we're talking millions of signals that we're getting that we didn't have before. The more signals we have, more granular and precise the data gets. The future is very, very, very strong. But I do want to make it clear that Omni Sales, Omni Shopper, as they sit today, they are fully operational. Like, they are not alpha products. Data Impact and Rakuten make things better. But right now, the tool is fully operational, ready to be used. It will only get better and better and better from here.
Well, it's kind of like, as I was saying, we're investing in the future growth, right? So as we think about what comes next, it's also being able to really get to omni-causals. So today, when you think about, your traditional sort of data discovery approach, you go into your data set, you look at your performance metrics, and you want to understand, is it distribution? Is it price? Is it, any of those standard causals we all know and love? Now expand that to truly being an omni view of causals, including all of the stuff that everyone is super eager for around digital shelf. And not the comma, right? The and. We're looking at this comprehensively so you can really understand the combined brick and mortar and digital causal impact. And that I think is sort of the next horizon of omni analytics for us, and data impact and Rakuten help us in a big way with unlocking that.
You see how excited we get about it? It's like we geek out over it big time, but I mean, we talk about the industry has a lot of what right now, like what happened. We have a lot of that data. Everyone can get it. The why it happened is what we're really passionate about.
Yeah.
The why it happened is the fuzzy part. These two acquisitions help us better get to the why and the causals, the longitudinal behavior.
Yep.
I think the future is incredibly bright, and what we're hoping too is like this sets a new benchmark for the industry in terms of what is acceptable measurement.
That's right.
And that's the goal, is to continue to improve upon that and make the industry better and better, better and smarter.
Yep.
What I hear you both saying is right now with Omni Sales and previously Omni Shopper together, you have a fully operational activation of measurement and insights.
That's right.
And what you're also investing in with these two new acquisitions is we're going to make that one even better going forward.
Yep.
And brands and retailers in the industry who want to get a handle of Omni, this is where you should be. You're hitting exactly what the market needs right now at a very critical juncture, because we've seen massive transformation, and this is going to help answer very important questions for brands and retail. So that's terrific. We're going to include in the digital liner notes of this podcast episode links to your LinkedIn profiles,
Awesome.
links to NielsenIQ, both online and their LinkedIn page. And we're going to include a link to the deck that you referenced where people can go learn about it. We encourage our audience, if you wanted, Harvey served it up, you want a demo, you want to see it, no cost.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I love to hear that. Liz, Harvey, such a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
us.
Peter.
Always fun to talk to you, Peter.
And that's it for us today. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to speaking with you on the next episode of the CPG Guys podcast. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPGGUYS LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPGGUYS LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPGGUYS LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPGGUYS LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.